So my name is Jaxin. I am 19 years old. I'm from Greenville, Tennessee, and I'm studying psychology. So I guess my story with mental health started a few years ago. I was diagnosed with a lot of health problems, like gastroparesis, and my family was having a lot of issues. And during this time, I grew I became depressed. I experienced a lot of anxiety. And this was really hard for me because in that time I felt like I needed to be the grown-up in my house. And to hold those things in, and I didn't understand that I had anxiety or I had depression. I just knew it was awful. Something that was like with anxiety that I struggled with was coming to know who I am and to find my worth and to know that even though I have anxiety or I have depression, that it doesn't define me. It doesn't make me any less than who I am. There was a time that I was suicidal. I didn't want to live anymore. There was no use to live anymore. My whole life at that time felt like it had gone. I couldn't do anything that I loved because I was sick, and my family was torn apart. But the thing that helped me to hold on and to actually give me the will to actually live and to keep moving forward was to find something that gave me meaning in life. And for me, that was my family. I knew that I couldn't just leave them at the time, and that they needed the support, and I needed to be there. So that was what I held on to, and that was my meaning in life. And then there was nothing else in life at that time that was any good for me, that I actually gave me a reason to live. And so I held on to the family. And after that, I worked to try to find things that I could actually enjoy. Actually gave me more meaning in life. And during this time, of course, I was still struggling. It was awful. I was sad. I didn't want to live, of course. Had anxiety attacks 3 times a week. They'd last a few hours. And I couldn't do anything. So yeah, just finding that meaning in life. Finding that one small reason to hold on is what has helped me to get to where I am today. Well, I still struggle with it sometimes. And I think it's going to be a constant battle, I think, throughout my whole life. It's just going to come up and down. To just find that little thing that I can hold on to and to keep going and to keep progressing forward.
Thank you for sharing that. What were some things that led up to you recognizing that, hey, I'm not just really sad, like I think I'm struggling with depression, I think I'm struggling with anxiety. Can you tell us a little bit more of how you came to the realization that this wasn't just a phase, this is something that you had to get help with?
So a lot of time I was in denial, like it's just because I'm going through these things. It's not like I have depression, it's not like I have anxiety or whatever. There was a lot of people, like, are you okay? What's wrong? Because I knew something was wrong. And while I didn't notice it myself, I knew something was wrong, but it wasn't like super obvious to me at the time. But yeah, my mom and people, they said I should get some help, maybe, and go see my doctors, and so I did. And at the time, since I was having so many health problems, I did have a lot of doctors anyways, and they were all worried about me. And so I think it was just a lot of people who actually cared about me. They made sure that I got some help, and I was able to recognize that. So yeah.
You said family was the reason, or not? Family was the reason why you decided to not commit suicide, why you decided to continue to live. What other things have helped you? I mean, obviously family was a stepping stone. It was kind of that point where you started, but what other things have helped you to rise above the mental challenges that you faced?
Something that really helped me was my religion. Being a member of Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints gave me hope, and to realize that I did have a purpose here on life, and I did have something that God would need me to do, and that I was important, and I was a child of God, which I think is a big principle to recognize, and I think that definitely helped me to rise above my challenges and to realize that I have worth and I have potential and I have an ability to become better than who I was and who I could become who I wanted to be. So that helped a lot. Just making those daily habits of like reading my scriptures and coming to know God, and to work on those on Christ-like attributes, and to learn to even be charitable to myself and to love myself for who I was, and who I was trying to become, and to forgive myself for what I wasn't at the time.
Thank you. I know you've shared a lot of personal stuff, but I would like to ask you a couple more personal questions, if that's okay. First of all, thanks for having the courage to come out here and share your struggles. I know it's difficult sharing it to other people, but especially when there's a camera facing you. So thank you for that courage. We've interviewed a lot of people here today. Very different circumstances, very different reactions. One thing that I'd like to ask you a little bit more about is, you said, again, that family was your rock. It was the reason you decided to keep going. But then you also said that your family was torn apart at the time when you were struggling. So my question is, how did you get to be here now at BYU? To the naked eye, you seem to be doing well. And the reason I ask this is, we have had some people who they've dealt with mental health issues, but they've been in a very supportive group. Their parents, their friends have all been there. And while I'm not saying that wasn't the case for you, what I am asking is, it sounds like you were in a very challenging environment while dealing with very challenging issues. So you've already mentioned religion, you already mentioned family, but could you kind of describe a little bit more, explain a little bit more to us how you're able to be here? I mean, you were really challenging circumstances in a really challenging environment. So it's not like you could go outside of yourself to find that comfort that was maybe missing from the inside. So can you explain a little bit more of that process?
Yeah, so one of my issues with anxiety with the family was our parents. My parents were, because they're torn apart, and my dad didn't treat me very well. Pulling myself away from both of them, mostly my father, helped me to recognize what some of my issues were concerning, like anxiety. It was my biggest issue concerning my father, and the cause of why, and to pull myself from that environment and to realize that I need to take care of myself before I take care of anybody else, and even my family, and to realize that, pull myself from the environment. forgot your question.
Just how you're able to rise above challenging circumstances in a challenging environment. To seem, because like I said, just looking at you now, you seem like you're doing okay. That could be different, and you could be like inside, no, not really. But how have you overcome the challenging issues that you've had to face to be where you are today?
So yeah, one, pulling myself from the environment that was causing me to have, for the best of my abilities, I couldn't pull myself completely away. And also recognizing those things that did cause issues and realizing that I wasn't perfect and that didn't have to be perfect. And I didn't have to focus on those little things that didn't really matter in the long run. And so to take that from my life and to just forgive myself for the little mistakes that I would make in my journey to heal. And then something that I think helped a lot is like my religion, praying, and to feel the love of God in my life, and to recognize that I wasn't alone, even though I felt very alone, and that there was somebody on my side. And to also remember my little siblings and older sister, and to know that they needed somebody to be there to support them, because it was challenging for them too. It wasn't just me. And to know that there were so many other people that I could help, and not just to, I didn't want to be selfish. Just to recognize my worth. And I think it's just a lot of forgiveness, forgiving myself and also forgiving others and letting things go and just being, you know what? It happened. I may have made that mistake. They may have done something to me, but it doesn't matter, and it's not something that I need to let affect my life and affect my decisions and my emotional stability.
You've impacted me in many ways, and I thank you for that. Last question that I have is, what would you say to someone who is facing mental health issues in a challenging environment? I think it's still not easy, but it's easier to say someone, hold on, reach out when they're in a loving environment. But when someone doesn't have that support group, it's obviously a lot more difficult to say, just talk to someone, just reach out.
Yeah.
I still think they're valid points, but I would want to ask you, what do you wish someone would have told you when you were struggling in such a challenging way?
I think something I said would help me was just finding something that had meaning, something that gave me purpose. And it didn't have to be something big. It could be something so small. It could be just something that I wanted to do. Just finding a little meaning and one step at a time. Don't take a whole big thing and say, I need to do all these things because that just causes problems. Just find something little, something small that gives you purpose, gives you meaning, and brings you at least a little bit of happiness, because that's hard to find when you have depression or anxiety or any mental illness. It's hard to find happiness, and just find that little thing, little something that can give you a purpose in your life.